Hello again, everyone. So, I see that there's almost 500 people that have joined this session. This is amazing. So happy to see you guys joining us for our keynote session this time. So, the next stop in our agenda is me introducing you to a phenomenal woman. So I would like to remind everyone, first of all, just keep an eye on the alert so you don't miss any of the other interactive and fun sessions that are happening. So let me now introduce you to Shahrzad Tadjbakhsh. Shahrzad is with the UNHCR, where she began her career in 1994 in Malaysia. Driven by her personal experience as a refugee at the age of 10. So currently, she's the UNHCR chef de cabinet. Previously, she served as deputy director in the Division of International Protection. She also held key positions at the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, including Chief of Staff for High Commissioners Louis Arbour and Navi Pillay, and Chief of the Universal Periodic Review Branch. Ms. Tadjbakhsh has a bachelor's degree with honors from Northwestern University and a Juris Doctor too from the University of Maryland School of Law. Let us now welcome Ms. Shahrzad.
Thank you so much, Saima, and really thank you to everyone for joining us and for inviting me and for having thought of me to join this group. I have to say, it is an incredible pleasure and honor for me to be here with everyone today. I have to say also that I feel incredibly humbled to be amongst such amazing trailblazers, including the organizers at Jumpstart Refugee Talent, who somehow had this idea and they ran with it to set up an exposition, as they said, that brings so many voices and opportunities around virtual rooms for everyone to be able to learn from one another and to engage and to celebrate. So, yes, I'm very happy to be here and to celebrate World Refugee Day with you, amongst all of you who are living proof day in and day out that refugees have so much to contribute to the economy, to the cultures, and in generally to their societies in general, if only they're given the right opportunities. There is indeed so much to celebrate. But if I may, it's also incumbent on me to say that this is also a day to commemorate. I say commemorate because each year we are confronted with a growing number of displaced populations around the world. In UNHCR, we've just released our global annual report, which identifies or highlights the data trends around the number of people displaced around the world. And I have to say that I'm actually very sad to let you know that we've reached a record high again, once again this year, where we have about 110 million people displaced around the world. And behind that number, needless to say, you have the sufferings, you have the upheavals of the lives, you have everything and the families that are disrupted and everything that goes with being a displaced person. So it is also a day to commemorate the lives of those who were not able to reach safety and to obtain asylum, as we witnessed here in Geneva, in Switzerland, in Europe this year, in the Mediterranean just last week, when we saw the tragic sinking of the boat, which led to over 100 deaths in one sinking. And I have to say, unfortunately, the 100 deaths were still counting. So, yes, it is a day to celebrate, but it is also a day to commemorate. But in celebrating World Refugee Day, which we're here to do today, I really believe that in highlighting every positive aspect of refugee contributions, I am convinced that we are equally playing our part in saving lives of all other refugees. And why do I say that? Why is it that everything that you all are doing actually contributes to saving lives? Because I think that in engaging the way you and all of us are engaging, we're enabling somehow the shifting of the narrative around refugees, moving that narrative away from saying that they are a burden to actually showing how they are contributors to the society. They are leaders. So by directly countering the hatred, the fear, and the decreasing protection space that we're seeing globally. So I really wanted to thank you all for that, also for that indirect support that you all are providing to ensure that protection of refugees continues to be enabled globally. Yes, there is a lot of many reasons for us to celebrate World Refugee Day and to celebrate each refugee journey. So while undoubtedly there's a lot of suffering, there's also, I have to say, and you all live it, an incredible amount of strength, of resilience, of courage, and of will. And I have to say, an incredible abundance of drive, with an incredible desire and capacity to use all of our different experiences, our cultures, our values, our skills, to be able to contribute to the new environment and the new societies in which we find ourselves. So, as today's expo shows, the contributions that refugees make really they run the gamut to the economy. And by the way, I have to say that as I was preparing for this, I was very heartened to find out that in fact, over 14% of refugees in Canada are entrepreneurs themselves, which means that they are not only themselves contributing to the addition to Canada themselves, but they're also enabling the creation of additional jobs for other members of their new community. So really, bravo. But it is of course an issue of contributing to the economy, but it is also, as the expo highlights, an issue of contributing to the arts, to the culture, to the academic settings, and importantly, and I have to say really more broadly, but very critically, the contributions that refugees make to a more diverse, a more inclusive, and a more understanding way of life, which embraces the value of a wider variety of lived experiences. And this, I sincerely believe, it makes societies stronger. And yes, I sincerely believe that that diversity and that varied lived experience makes our societies better. Of course, no refugee experience is ever the same, but each journey is worthy of a celebration in of itself as it can lead to so much goodness. Mine brought me to where I am today, lucky enough to serve as the High Commissioner for Refugees Chief of Staff over at UNHCR. And it brought me to where I am today, possibly as a result of the suffering and the hardships that we went through as a family, as a refugee family. But I also have to say that I think it was also as a result of the strength, the will, and the passion that that journey equally taught me. So when my family became refugees, my father already was quite advanced in his career, but also in his age. And I remember how hard it was for him to rebuild his life and to care for his family as a refugee in a new country. Back then, my father and my family, we had no support when we came as refugees, unlike this amazing network that you all have created and you continue to create for yourselves and for other refugees. So, with my father, despite being a PhD and a professor in law and having had many years of diplomatic experience, he could not find a job. He wasn't able to keep afloat any of the small businesses he tried to create, and he did try to create a number of them. But I have to say, worst of all, he was discriminated against. He was looked down upon. He was treated poorly because he was a stranger, because he had an accent, because he was seen as a burden to the society, and frankly, simply because he was a refugee. I still have tears to come to my eyes after 40 years of relaying my father's experience. And he lost hope in himself. He lost hope in his value and the contributions that he could make to the society. But I have to say, my father never lost hope in his family. And together with my mother, who is an obstetrician and gynecologist, and who had to start once again her medical career at the very bottom of the spectrum of her profession, when she took any job that no other doctor was willing to take, they did everything they could to encourage us and to help us to move forward their three children. And I have to say that they saw a good education as their saving grace. I look back at that time and still today, but especially back then, I found it so unfair the way my parents were treated. I was so sad, but I have to also tell you that I was so mad. I was so mad that such a person that I found to be so distinguished and caring and educated and willing to contribute, I was so mad that he was treated so poorly. But it was that anger and the desire to save other refugees from a similar fate that led me to my decision to go to law school and to do all I could to work for UNHCR, which is the organization that I believe, that I still believe, is can be instrumental, actually has a global mandate to extend protection and to guide positive policy changes in the best way that it needs to go. Looking back now, I realized that it wasn't as much the experience of my parents before they became refugees and during their flight, the persecution, the hardships in getting asylum. It wasn't that as much that experience that motivated me to want to do the work that I do. It actually was their experience as refugees, which motivated me to work in this field and to do everything I can to make sure that what they went through is not the same as what is a way to ensure that others equally don't go through that same experience. So for me, what's very clear is that I needed to find a way to use that lived experience and to make sure that others, I was in a position to give them hope, to give refugees a hope. And as we heard at the beginning, hope away from home being our theme, but importantly also to find a way to give back the power to refugees, to give them back the way in which that they had lost their power in some of the societies which was not willing to integrate them effectively. I wanted their strengths to be recognized so that they would be hopeful contributors to their new societies, that they wouldn't be seen as burdens, but as important contributors in many aspects of life, and for their journeys and lives to be celebrated rightly. So for me, all of this has real meaning behind every position that we advocate, including the importance of access to education, including tertiary education for refugees. And I have a feeling that this is the same sense and belief that you all have today. This is why I'm so touched to be here with you today and to see your commitment to participate and to engage in this exposition. I want to thank you for this opportunity that allows me to be part of this journey, and I wish you the very best of luck in this day and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahrzad. That was beautiful. It was a very moving story, and I'm glad that we could host you and you joined us. I would love you to read the chat box to see all the wonderful comments that people have left in there. We have about 5 to 6 minutes of break before we go to the first panel discussion, guys. So take this opportunity to visit the vendors and start networking. Just go to the top right, top left corner of your screen and look at the view schedule. Scroll down and then click on trade show and networking. So please make sure you keep an eye on the alerts and join the sessions. So for now, I will bid adieu from Calgary, Alberta, and pass the baton to my colleague, Shruti from New Canadians, who will take over the first panel. Okay, guys.